Imagine going onto YouTube and typing into it, how do I live my life? Have you ever been working on a project where you realize, I don't know what I'm doing? It happens to me all the time. And especially when I've been fixing up my house, I run into things like doing my floors or putting up trim. And since I don't have anyone to apprentice me in how to do that, what I do is I get out my phone and I ask YouTube, how do I do this? And the reason why is because I need to see someone doing it. I can't listen to a podcast about how to fix the floors. I can't read about how to do the floors. I need to actually see somebody actually do it, and then I can get the idea pretty quickly. Think about the emergence of YouTube and how huge it is as a platform. I think one of the reasons for that is because people are searching for discipleship. People are hungry to be apprenticed. They want to know how to live. The most important things in our lives are things that we can't really watch a YouTube video on. Like, no one makes a video on YouTube while they're fighting with their spouse and how to do that well. Or, their kids are out of control and how do you handle that as a parent well, as a Christian. And so the only way we can learn those kinds of things is by being with each other and really learning from one another and seeing that in one another and apprenticing one another to follow Jesus. You can't even have a curriculum. If you think about discipling somebody and here's the book on following Jesus, you can just kind of makes me laugh just to think about it. And then you fill in all the blanks and now you're a disciple of Jesus. Now, why doesn't that work? Why doesn't that make sense? A student doesn't become like the content. A student does not become greater than their teacher, or they don't build more and more information or knowledge. They become like their teacher. And so as you're thinking about being an apprentice of Jesus yourself, learning how to follow him, you also need to be thinking about how do I live my life out in front of other people, Because there's just some things you only learn by watching somebody else do it. And there's some things about Jesus, by the way, that you'll never learn until you do what he did. The people that could lead and don't are missing out, because there are some things about Jesus that you're never gonna know until you lead, until you take on the role of intentionally developing or discipling someone else. But once you kind of get in the mess of trying to help other people follow Jesus, you really learn a lot about what Jesus is like, what he had to deal with, and it really changes how you read Scripture. If you look at the gospel accounts, for instance, and you just read them, he'll tell a story, for instance, of the prodigal son, but he did that because they were asking, why are you eating with sinners? It changes the whole story, because you actually have to get into the story and look around and watch Jesus and see how he does it. He's teaching just as much about grace by where he is and what he's eating and who he's hanging out with as he is in the content of the story of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. So you can apply this to Scripture as well. It's like getting into Scripture and really looking around and seeing what's happening in the story is another way that we can become apprentices of Jesus. And I think it's probably one of the most powerful ways that you can impact people in your group is just getting inside the Scripture and looking around like you're trying to learn how to do something that you could really apply in your real life. Because people aren't trying to figure out what someone else did 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. They're trying to figure out, well, how do I live now with this situation? And so if you don't get into the story and look around and really understand it, you're not going to have the full context of what's going on. And so this idea of becoming like Jesus, it doesn't work without relationship. We go to YouTube for all kinds of things to figure out how to do them. But how to do life, we can only learn by living it out together.